Hello everyone, welcome to another video here on the channel. Remember to like, sub, and share. I'm trying to get this channel to 1,000 subs so I can monetize it. That's the only threshold I need to make. So, Redfall. Redfall is one of the biggest commercial flops of this year and possibly may become one of the biggest flops of this generation. The game was developed by Arcane Studios, best known for Prey and Dishonored, and this game was just a discounted version of Borderlands that performs even worse. It's marred with issues on PC and console. The world is empty. It has a lot of samey objectives. The shooting feels off. In fact, just to compliment this right here, where everyone harped on IGN for having a terrible gameplay preview, uh, it was actually on point about everything that was happening here. When you look at this video, this is exactly how the game plays. The first-person shooter combat is very wonky. The dead zone is terrible, and when you switch between weapons, I don't know if this person does, if we're gonna get it here. Yeah, right here. When the player tries to switch their weapons, they switch to a sniper rifle. That's because there's no easy way to switch weapons. You have to cycle between them. So the writing was on the wall for this game for months. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the 1.0 release based on that. But the reason that I am trying to introduce this is because Phil Spencer, after being trended on Twitter for a while now for people going completely ballistic on the guy for a lot of reasons, calling for his resignation and all of this, going traditional gamer hardcore, let's just blame someone for this situation in the most obtuse way possible. Look, yes, Xbox is responsible for QA, but he came on Kind of Funny's show in order to discuss the issues, and I have to give credit. The journalist did a fantastic job of not pulling any punches. They spoke to him, told him exactly what was happening, and I've already watched this, and I recommend you go watch it as well. But I took out clips of the videos, as you can see from the tabs above, in order to pick out some of the more important moments. So I'm going to play them, and then we're going to discuss them. So this is the first one.
What is your thoughts right now as we head into the first week of this game being out?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. I'll hit Redfall, but I'll just say all up. Um, there's nothing that's more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community. I've been a part of it for a long time. I obviously work on Xbox, head of the business, have a lot of friends, get a lot of feedback, and just to kind of watch the community lose confidence, be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with myself. I kind of revisit our process. I think back to the announcement of 60 frames per second, and then we weren't shipping 60 frames per second. That was kind of our punch in the chin, rightfully, a couple weeks ago. And then seeing the game come out, and the critical response was not what we wanted. And it's disappointing. And so kind of pick myself up. What can we learn? How can we get better? One thing I'll fight is kind of what went wrong. There's clearly quality and execution things that we can do. But one thing I won't do is push against creative aspirations of our teams. Then a lot of people will say, hey, you've got teams know how to do one kind of game. Just force them to go do the one kind of game that they have a proven track record for. And I'm just not a believer in that. Maybe that means I'll underdeliver for some of our fans out there. But when a team like Rare wants to do Sea of Thieves, when a team like Obsidian wants to do Grounded, when Tango wants to go do Hi-Fi, when everybody probably thought they were doing Evil Within 3, I want to give the teams the creative platform to go and push their ability, push their aspirations. But I also need to have a great selection of games that are continue to come that surprise and delight our fans. And we under-delivered on that. And for that, I apologize. It's not what I expect, not what I want. But, it's ours to deliver.
And I think that's a really good statement. Phil is a terrific speaker. And absolutely right. Like, we wouldn't have games like Sea of Thieves launched in a very underwhelming state as well. It had no content. If you want a good detailed review about it, I recommend go watching Angry Joe's review. He actually did an exceptional job on that. And yeah, but now it's one of the biggest live service games out there. It definitely pulled a No Man's Sky. Grounded was also early access, but they were also charging full price for the early access. But the game also evolved into something that's pretty profound, and a lot of people like it. So he's allowing people to stretch their wings, because there have been situations in the past where developers feel like them just specializing in one type of game causes them to become creatively bankrupt. Like, one of the best examples would be Dead Rising. Now, Blue Castle Studios was involved with Dead Rising. They were the basically the lead developers on the series. And there's a great video on it with what happened from Matt McMuscles about what happened to Dead Rising 4. Long story short, they wanted to do something different. They didn't tell Capcom what they were doing, and then when they presented it to Capcom, it didn't go over well, which is within Capcom's right. Capcom was really disappointed. They were like, what the hell's going on? We're funding a game that we told you to do. You showed us that you were doing it, and then it turns out you weren't doing that. So that's what happened with Dead Rising 4. Basically, they had to release the game in a very, it just didn't live up to Dead Rising's level of expectations. So I actually compliment that Phil does give people more creative freedom to try other things, because Tango Gameworks is known for The Evil Within, which is an exceptional survival horror game, and a lot of people want The Evil Within 3. He probably is hinting at the fact that it's probably being made right now, just like with Hi-Fi Rush, which was conveying that the game may be in development, but Hi-Fi Rush has been doing very well. I don't know how well it's doing in sales, but in terms of critical reception, it's one of the best rated games of this year. So if he didn't give them that, green light to explore other avenues, we wouldn't have Hi-Fi Rush, which is completely left field of what Tango Gameworks is known for. The reason I'm not going to play the rest of that clip is because I do want you to watch the interview. I do believe it's worth it, and I'm just picking out clips of what I think were the most important parts. So this is on what he's learned and discussing a bit about Starfield. Now, in this part, Phil explains of how they acquired the studio, Bethesda, and all sub studios, ZeniMax and going down with Bethesda, and then everything else, and how Redfall was already well into development, so they couldn't utilize the resources that were now available to them through being part of Xbox now.
There's games that are in development when we acquire a studio, and then there's things that are either really early in development or not even conceived yet. And I think we need to improve on engaging in games that are midway through production when they become part of Xbox. I do think there's a different expectation for a game and even a team when you've been third party and all of a sudden you become part of first party. There's a different expectation in terms of how you're going to perform on our console. I think there's a different competitive set when people look at what this game is and the other games that they're going to say, hey, I want this game to feel as competitive as this other game on another console platform in our case. And we didn't do a good job early on in engaging with Arcane Austin to really help them understand what it meant to be part of Xbox and part of first party, and use some of our internal resources to help them and kind of move along that journey even faster. So we kind of left them to go work on the game. They're a very talented team. I love that team, and I still do, and I will totally bet on them to do another great game. But when like Matt Booty and Jamie Leaders running ZeniMax and I sit down, I think we could engage earlier with our different studios. And I do think there's a difference when we come in when the creative's already set on a game. That's not washing our hands of any of the creative. Every game we ship from our teams is an Xbox game. And so it's a full responsibility for it. But thinking about how our internal processes of dev assistance, even some of our internal ATG resources, what's the Advanced Technology Group, and how those work with our internal teams. I think we can do a better job with our internal teams. We did a better job with Starfield. Again, nobody should believe it until they're playing the game, but that game was earlier on in production, and it was easier for us to kind of swarm a bunch of people to go and kind of help with some of the technology on our platform and ensure that we're going to ship a quality experience there. And we should have been there for Harvey and the team earlier. I think that's on us. And then through the process, it's an Unreal game. We have a bunch of studios that have done some really great work on Unreal over the years. And I think we were too late to help in that when they had certain issues that they were working through, which any team will. It's nothing to do with the specific engine. But we have a lot of experience, and we needed to get on that earlier with the team. And we didn't do that. And that's not an excuse. And you asked just to kind of diagnose. So when the 60 frames per second issue came up, we were definitely diving in. We had people from the coalition and people from Rare and stuff looking, both teams that have done some really great work with Unreal to help us build a 60 FPS plan. But obviously that was a plan that had to be in place last fall in order for us to really be in a position to have it at launch. And I take that as learning, as painful as it is. But as you said, it's part of getting to success are those learnings and that diagnosis. There's a bunch of other stuff I could go into, but then we end up with kind of dev doc, which I'm happy to do. But yeah.
Well, Phil, we don't have.
Now, it's like I stated, Phil stated that the reason Redfall was in the kitchen, it's that he kind of threw Arcane under the bus by stating that they weren't able to take advantage of all the resources that were available, and the game was so late in development that they just decided to let them do their own thing, as opposed to Starfield, which he's basically hedging his bets on, stating that it will ship feature complete, and if it doesn't, people are going to call him out for this. So a lot of things have to go into Starfield. Maybe that's why the game was getting delayed numerous times. It didn't meet Xbox expectations, and they were like, nope, this game is not ready. Delay the game. It needs to work. But with Redfall, it was like, this game is so late in development. Fixing all the issues would take so much time that they might as well just ship it and just say, hey, here it is. Go nuts and see how it performs. Again, companies do this all the time when they feel like their product is so, it's going to underperform, and delaying the game will not yield the best results in terms of, profit or like new subscriptions. They're pushing Xbox Game Pass, so maybe that's why. Again, that's just my conspiracy hat going on. But the last statement about Starfield is definitely the thing that everyone's going to latch on to. If that game does not perform well, he's going to see it. And he does talk about game delays. So this is a clip where he was asked about game delays, not just about Redfall, but Halo Infinite, Halo Wars 2. And this is what Phil said. I want him to state why the game wasn't delayed.
Well, I think those are, and I'm happy to go very deep on this. I think if I think about a team's execution on a game, we had a creative vision. And did we realize that vision through the game that we created? That's not a delay question if the answer is no. Like, you can't take something that you started on. This isn't a Redfall specific conversation, right. But we will build games that review in the high 80s, and we will build games that review in the 60s. I mean, it's just kind of part of being in game publishing. And if you're afraid of that, then you shouldn't be in the entertainment business. You shouldn't be in the games business. That said, every time we deliver something below our own internal expectations that surprises us, we should check our process. I don't look at the review scores on Redfall, and there are quality issues, and we're working on those. But I think there's a fundamental piece of feedback that we get that the game isn't realizing the creative vision that it had for its players. That doesn't feel like hey, just delay it. That feels like the game had a goal to do one thing, and when players are actually playing, they're not feeling that thing. They're not feeling the creative execution of the team. When a game needs to be delayed, what we did with Halo, we did with Starfield, we did with Redfall, because the production timeline is saying we have this vision and our production timelines don't get us to the completion of that vision, we do delay games. We do that. Learning about the quality, I've seen them. I know there are bugs in Redfall that's launching. But when I look at like the crash rates on the game, because we get all the telemetry of everything that's happened, it's not out of proportion for a game that has just launched. It's kind of in the pocket of what we would expect. That's not to deny any of the animation, streaming of texture bugs, the AI bugs that we've seen. We will go work on those. But when I look at the review scores of this game, it's did we have enough of creative differentiation in our core idea, and did we realize that creative ambition? I'm a huge supporter of Arcane Austin. Their track record is awesome. I love a lot of the great games that they've built. This is one where the team didn't hit their own internal goals when it launched. I think it's maybe a little simplistic to just say, hey, if you would have just delayed it 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something that was different than what it was. So I look at them at different camps. If there's a production timeline issue, we've been open to delaying. If we just have more bugs than we should have at the end of a game, we're open to delaying. At some point, we have to have a creative vision and put the game out, and reviewers and players will tell us what they think.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, of course, please.
All right, so I think that was an exceptional answer. Like, it's basically what's happening with Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Basically, to sum it up, it's not about performance. He's literally saying that if the performance of the game does not meet a certain standard, yeah, we'll delay the game. We have no problem with that. If there are a lot of bugs and all this stuff, we'll delay the game, no problem. It's the creative vision. And that's where I think he did it in such a really likable way. And that's what makes Phil such a great speaker. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs for a political office later down his line, but we'll see. But yeah, he's right. It's like you can fix the game as much as you want, make it as bug-free as you want, but if the game isn't fun to play, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how stable it is. Like, that shouldn't be a standard. That shouldn't be a worth of praise. It should be standard that the game should run. But it's the idea of, like, we played the game and it was boring, so we're just going to release it, bugs and all, because it doesn't matter if we fix the game, it's still going to be boring. People are still going to play this game and think Destiny 2, Borderlands, Far Cry is better. And that's exactly one of the major issues a lot of people are complaining about. Yeah, the bugs, the AI, the texture issues are all there, but everyone says it's just not fun to play. There's no drop-in, drop-out co-op. There is nothing. All the aspects that would make this game fun is not there. And that's really the unsettling problem. It's, again, what's happening with Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Like, they can dial back the monetization that's hinted to be in the game, the battle pass, the, grindy nature of the game. It's still going to look just like what we saw in the gameplay. It's going to be that. Nothing's going to change that. The creative vision has been set into motion. It's literally a concrete wall fortified by carbon fiber. You can't change it. You can put chisels into it. You can paint it, but you can't change the wall. It's what it is, and I think that's actually a really good answer. Like, the creative vision has been set into motion, and there's nothing that can be changed about it. So delaying the game and fixing all the bugs and fixing all the problems isn't going to fix the gameplay and the raw nature of the game. Like, if this game launched complete, like, let's just say hypothetically it launched feature complete, like drop in co-op, progression tracker, when you host a game, public matchmaking, and there were no bugs whatsoever, how many people would still play the game? That's the good question. Like, how many of you would still play? Like, I'm playing it because I started it and I have to finish it. Like, that's how I see video games. If I start something, I'm going to finish it. But most people would say, no, I'm done. I'm gone. Refund the game. It's boring. And go play something they find fun. And I think that's a great thing. And the last part of this interview, I think, is the best part, where he discusses, like, this is why I think Phil Spencer he has a more future planned ideal for Xbox. He's not thinking about something that a lot of people like myself think back in the Super Nintendo, where if you sell great games, the consoles will move forward. Xbox isn't the primary goal for Microsoft. It is the Game Pass service. You can literally download Game Pass and play it on your phone, play it on your TV, play it on your PC. Every Xbox first-party game comes out on PC. So I think this is where a lot of comments about what he thinks Xbox should move towards. And he's actually also adapting more of Nintendo's philosophies, as you can see here. And he also acknowledges the large L's that Xbox has taken. This, to me, is the best part of the interview.
And they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. So what we have to do, and we have this unique vision because we see what creators want to do. Creators want to build games that can meet players on any screen. People play with their friends regardless of what other screen they're on. And the console is the core of the Xbox brand. There's no doubt. So like we will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. But I know some people want to hold us up of just being a better green version of what the blue guys do. And I'm just going to say, like, there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud, and the way we build our games. Sorry, I was a little long-winded.
No, that was perfect.
And honestly, that was another exceptional answer. Absolutely, he's right. I strongly believe that the last generation was the start of the digital revolution for a game, and that's why we have digital only versions of current gen consoles. It's because people started purchasing more digital content on consoles. And yeah, if you have a very large library of games on your PlayStation 4, why would you get an Xbox and wipe the slate clean? It's actually also an argument for trophies and achievements. If you already have like 100,000 gamer score, yes, it's just virtual points. Why would you start fresh on a PlayStation console and vice versa? You have all these platinum trophies. You're going to be like, all my progress is just wiped clean. Gamers like to keep their progress, and consumers will be like, hey, I already have all these games downloaded on my PlayStation 4. Why would I want to move on to Xbox? I can't play those games anymore. Yes, we do have cross-play nowadays, but we don't have cross-digital playing. I don't think any company would do that. Nintendo is kind of in the backlog of that because Nintendo doesn't allow that. I don't think they ever will because they remove their eShops and then they make you re-download and repurchase the same games on the eShops. But for Microsoft and PlayStation, they're pretty good about that. They allow you to re-download any game that you had on your last generation console on your current gen console. In fact, Microsoft is more open to it. They allow you to download a whole plethora of games, not only from Xbox One, but even Xbox 360. If you bought a game on Xbox 360, you can download it on your Xbox One and still play it, as opposed to Sony, where they force you to use that crappy streaming service. It's impressive of how fast it is, but it's still very bad, especially when you play old PlayStation 3 games. In particular, I know a bit of a tangent here, but I played the original God of War games on the streaming service. It has this weird background noise. Then I got my PlayStation 3, hooked it up, and got the HD collection. Runs perfectly, especially God of War Ascension. Yeah, it had its issues, but try and play that on a PlayStation 5 streaming console, it's a disaster. But nevertheless, he is absolutely right. Like, the way of the future is going to be digital. I am a boomer. I do prefer having physical releases of the games because I can literally give it to my friends. My friend Andrea, she wanted to borrow Kingdom Hearts 3 once. If I bought that digitally, I wouldn't be able to give it to her. I literally picked up the game, gave it to her. And yeah, that's how the future is going to work. So I do think this interview is really worth watching to its completion. Phil does a fantastic job, and I know people are going to say you're being an Xbox fanboy and all that. I'm trying to be as indifferent as possible. To me, he did a really good job of stating the issues. The journalist here hit him with the hard questions, and yes, there's a few like fart sniffing here and there, but it's still a really good interview. It really showcases that Phil acknowledges what's happening. He's trying to move forward to be better than that, and most importantly, he's conveying what he has planned for the future of the Xbox brand. It isn't just about shipping good games, it's the idea of how to deliver those games on a widespread network to ensure everyone has access to it, given details about how they're trying to incorporate these studios under the same umbrella, but also understanding that maybe they didn't have the planned out as well as they thought with Redfall, because some of these projects were already way into development and they just didn't have the tools necessary to ensure that it came out, while also understanding that he's a gamer. And it really shows that he understands that despite Redfall having performance issues, the core of the game's issues is the fact that it's just not that fun to play. Like when there are far superior games out there, he acknowledges that there people are going to go play those games instead. People would rather play Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3, heck, Borderlands 1, or Destiny 2 than Redfall because those are better games. In the end, it doesn't. Yes, new game. The new game feeling is great and all, but that only lasts for so long. Eventually, people are going to move on, and once the game launches and word of mouth starts spreading that this game sucks, you're not going to entice new players. You're probably going to entice a few that are going to say, I want to see if this game is as bad as people think it is or say it is. And maybe you're going to have a few people who like the game. For the most part, it's just not going to end well. Either way, I think it is a fantastic interview. Go watch it. Go watch Kinda Funny Games. They do pretty good work. And that's going to be it from me. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe again. Trying to hit 1,000 subs on this channel so I can get this monetized. And that's going to be it from me. This is Harbinger signing out. Have a good one.